We have spoken to women who say that they cover their faces because they don't want to incite passions among men. I mean, that is essentially Yasmin's point.
Well, look, essentially, I think, you know, that's Yasmin's opinion.
No, it's not my opinion.
Yes, it is. It is your opinion.
Ask the Taliban. Ask Taliban why they're imposing it.
Yasmin.
The issue of social interaction is very important, and not just to me, but obviously to a majority of the British people. Yeah. What I say tonight, what Yasmin says and other people say tonight, people see our faces. They know who said it. I'm sorry to say this, but nobody knows who you are. They can hear your name. They can't see you. If I say something stupid on television tonight, people know it's me saying it. If you do, with all due respect, you can disappear and no one knows.
No, we're not disappearing.
Today on Speak Douglas Murray, we have an incredibly fiery debate on the question of whether the niqab should be banned in Britain. Like a fighter with his back against the wall, Douglas Murray, outnumbered but unperturbed, argues against the usage of the niqab in Britain and criticizes its place in British society. Is it not fair to say that this garment inhibits assimilation of this subgroup into British society, instead only accentuating differences between quote-unquote their women and our women? What is your initial position on this topic? Let me know down in the comments below. But anyways, without further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Can I just begin with you, Fatima?
Yes.
56% of British people don't really support the wearing of the full face veil in public. They don't want it.
Well, I think it depends on where you take the poll, really, because, something that I've recently launched is a project called Secrets of a Muslim Woman, and it's all about letting people know why we do what we do, because I think a lot of it is to do with not really being familiar with it. You know, I mean, my message to the British public is that you've got nothing to fear. You know, this is a piece of cloth.
They don't feel that, though, do they? Because elsewhere in this poll, a majority said they don't know how to relate to a woman wearing a full face veil.
I think, you know, the people who have actually interacted with women who wear the face veil, people who work with them. I mean, we're in East London today. In East London, the veil is practically, you know, normal on the streets of East London. People who've actually interacted and worked with women who wear the veil have absolutely no problem with it. I think it's the fear of the unknown.
Douglas Murray, would you like to see the veil banned here?
Well, I think, like a majority of British people, I think that it should be banned in public places, particularly places like courtrooms, where it's absolutely imperative that a jury are able to see the faces of people who are accused. As for an overall ban, I think, look, my own opinion is that niqab is highly undesirable. I think that we live in a society where people do show their faces, where huge amounts of our social interaction depend on people showing their faces. I think that it's very difficult to enforce a ban in public places like streets, but it should be certainly a desirable thing to discourage its wearing.
To impose a ban, but in principle you'd like to see one because you think in Britain it's unacceptable.
In public buildings, in courts, in schools, and places like this, absolutely, I think a ban would be very sensible. In streets and so on, I think it's difficult, but it should be societally discouraged.
Fatima?
No, a ban, I mean, I think it's a complete overreaction. Look, the niqab has been part of the British landscape for the last 20-odd years, okay? Muslim women have been going about their business. We've got a radio presenter here, we've got a scientist, we've got talented Muslim women who've got a lot to give to this society, who've been doing so and been very sensible about it. When we need to remove our face veils, we do it. But how do you think we get through airport security?
I mean, what about the fact that 56% of people are saying they don't want it here?
You know what? I'm not surprised at all, because when you know that high-profile politicians making such offensive comments and big fuss about it, I am not surprised when the public say they are against it.
We show our faces.
Exactly. The British society, the fabric of the British society is respecting the public freedom.
We are
and
British.
Public freedom is part of it, the religious freedom.
What about the fact that people feel
practice.
uneasy? They said they don't know how to relate to women who have their faces covered.
First of all, let them interact with us. Let us be open and engaging with them. This is number one. Secondly, 80% of communication in the world does not involve face-to-face. Twitter, Facebook, phones doesn't involve face-to-face communications. The issue is the problemization here. It's not existent problem at all.
I'm sorry, I worked in this area for 7 years, about 15 years ago, and this was not, as you said, a norm. This has been imported and exported for reasons which we haven't got time to go into. We live in a society, and we live in a country which is very, very complicated. And to shut yourself off as if The rest of us are infections and cutting
How we
do not show your
This is the meaning.
We are engaged. We are active. How are we shut off?
Shalina, you have said that in engaging with your elderly white neighbour who feels uneasy, sometimes you remove the veil. When you worked with children, you remove the veil. Isn't that an acknowledgement that it is difficult for people to engage with women who have their faces covered?
Yeah, I think it is. And I also honour what Douglas Murray has just said. He couldn't actually feel comfortable, and you know, I'm making a presumption here, but you couldn't say, let's do an outright ban. And that's great, because I understand you look at social cohesion. It's about looking at, let's isolate it. Whose discomfort are we going to favour? Because if I lift my veil, I'm then uncomfortable. And we've favoured someone's discomfort.
We live in a society, but I don't believe in the French ban. I don't think you should do that.
But why not?
Absolutely,
If you're opposed to it,
no,
if you
I think there
is
is a very simple way of saying, and a non-racist way of saying, in public institutions, everybody, whoever they are, must show their faces. It's Muslim exceptionalism that is becoming the problem.
No, it's not.
If we have the same rule for everybody, and at home, on the streets, I don't want people stopped. Okay.
We accommodate religious expression in this country. You know, Jehovah's Witnesses who don't want blood transfusions, Sikh people who want to wear turbans. We make exceptions, you know, in certain situations. And so, look, you know, I really want to reach out to the public and say, you've got nothing to fear from us.
But take up Yasmin's,
I was born in this country. I love this country.
Take up Yasmin's point that this is about exceptionalism. Take up Yasmin Alibhai-Brown's point about this is about exceptionalism.
We accommodate, don't we, in this country, and in my country, Britain, we accommodate religious expression. We do make exceptions for people. And there's nothing, and that's what I thought.
And we cannot destroy the minorities and the religious belief in the name of equality.
Douglas Murray's proposal to ban the niqab in public settings, citing reasons of identification and security, may resonate with many who see it as a practical measure. In places like banks, airports, or government buildings, after all, confirming identity is a matter of public safety. The argument here is straightforward. If faces are uncovered, law enforcement can do its job more effectively, helping to keep everyone secure. But opponents of a niqab ban argue passionately that such restrictions infringe on individual freedoms, particularly the freedom of personal expression and religious practice. They insist that restricting their preferred choice of attire could alienate Muslim communities and even deepen social divides. For them, real social integration is about building trust and mutual respect, not restricting how people dress. While some argue that banning the niqab infringes on personal freedoms, there's a compelling case to be made that public safety and social cohesion take precedence. In fact, encouraging open, face-to-face communication can be key to better integration, helping to foster a sense of trust and shared identity in society. Some believe that this move would support women who might otherwise face pressure to wear the niqab, freeing them from societal or familial expectations and affirming their autonomy. So the question is, do we prioritize uniform security measures over the right to personal choice? And is a ban actually necessary to ensure safety and cohesion? Let's hear the other side as they address this complex debate today.
What if the majority feel uncomfortable, feel uneasy and say they don't want it?
I think then the onus is on us as well, isn't it? I mean, to actually reach out. And I'm hoping that this is just going one step towards that, to say to people, look, you know, we're human beings just like you.
But if I may very quickly, religious freedom is an extremely important thing, and I think most people who would agree, I hope in this room, that Britain is the most tolerant place in the world to live, including as a Muslim. But let's just add one thing to this, if I may. The issue of social interaction is very important, and not just to me, but obviously to a majority of the British people. What I say tonight, what Yasmin says and other people say tonight, people see our faces, they know who said it. I'm sorry to say this, but nobody knows who you are. They can hear your name, they can't see you. If I say something stupid on television tonight, people know it's me saying it. If you do, with all due respect, you can disappear and no one knows.
No, we're not disappearing. You
what
can
does
see
this
us
say?
here. Come
the
on.
meaning of this thing is extremely important to address. The meaning of this thing is women are by nature dangerous to men and society. Therefore, they must be covered, they must be buried. That's the meaning of it. And that's what I cannot accept.
I mean, Fatima, come back on exactly that point, because we have spoken to women who say that they cover their faces because they don't want to incite passions among men. I mean, that is essentially Yasmin's point.
Well, look, essentially, I think, that's Yasmin's opinion.
No, it's not my opinion.
Yes,
that
it is. It is your opinion.
Ask the Taliban. Ask Taliban why they're imposing it.
Yasmin, I'm really sorry. Maybe you haven't really met women in Niqab. I would like to invite you out to my house. You can see my face. We can sit together. We can have a laugh.
Yes,
and then I think it will change your opinion.
Come to your house and see your face, though, could he?
I can assure you I'm not going to be
He
aroused.
could meet my husband. No, you're welcome. You would be welcome to, come to my house.
Kamila Hassan, can I ask, I mean, you used to wear the niqab and then changed your mind. Why?
Two main reasons. One was theological. I made some attempt to actually study the whole notion of niqab in Islam, and I found that it's not actually mandatory. The hijab, the headscarf, is mandatory, but the niqab is not. It's part of Islamic society right from the beginning, but it's not mandatory. Just go and read a little bit of Ibn Kathir, for example.
Yeah, I'm a scholar in training, actually, so I do know that.
Sorry, let him
and
finish.
secondly, we have a social function in society. We are here to interact with society. We have to have a social consciousness. We have to benefit society. We have to interact with society. And I realized in those 3 years, I was a nobody. Nobody wanted to talk to me because they couldn't talk to me. I could smile until the cows come home, but nobody could see me smiling.
You see, that's a very good point, isn't it? Because you say you were a nobody,
yes,
and yet many, many people in our poll disagreed with this notion that it was empowering in any way.
And I bet you there were many Muslims in that survey. Most Muslims don't care for this either.
Agree with that.
So to say British as if it was, non-Muslims, most of us daren't speak out. When I do, I get death threats. I've had emails just this week
I am sorry.
from Niqab.
I am sorry. That's
Niqab.
wrong.
He's calling me a prostitute. What is this freedom that we have? We can't even criticize what is not acceptable.
As Douglas Murray aptly points out, if I say something, people will know who is saying it. But if you say something, no one knows who you are. This cuts to the heart of why many view the niqab as a barrier in society. It prevents open, identifiable interaction. Being seen and recognized in public spaces fosters accountability and trust, creating an environment where everyone engages openly and takes responsibility for their words and actions. By obscuring identity, the niqab can disrupt this vital social exchange, distancing individuals from a shared, cohesive community. When we're able to look one another in the eye, to share a smile or express empathy, we foster a society that values transparency and genuine connection. For society to thrive, there must be a level of shared cultural understanding, a collective embrace of common values that unites us beyond our individual differences. Supporters of restrictions on the niqab argue that it symbolizes separation, hindering assimilation and undermining a shared British identity. They believe that by encouraging open interactions, we strengthen social unity, making it easier for everyone to feel included and respected within the community.
Sophia, I'm right in saying you also used to wear the niqab,
yes.
and you again decided not to.
Yes.
Why was that?
The reason for that was that, that was a personal choice. I had an incident where niqab was pulled off me, and it really frightened me, and I became very, very anxious. But I feel very strongly about some of the things that's been said here. One of the things that for example, Yasmin, you've said about freedom of speech and how people are threatening you. I think that's completely unacceptable Islamically. We can't be responsible for all the Muslims and for all the people around the world. Exactly. But I will say that just like you have the freedom of choice to express how you feel, we have the freedom of choice. I have a freedom of choice to not wear a niqab, and she has the freedom of choice to wear a niqab.
Did you feel that you were forced out of wearing it, or did you come to a different view about it?
Yeah, one of the things it was a very personal choice for me. It meant a lot to me to wear the niqab.
This is not shopping in Primark. This has a meaning, and it's the meaning I'm arguing about. And actually,
but that's your perception.
Let me explain to you the meaning then.
That's the suggestion of your argument that these women don't know what their own choice is.
That's your perception.
They absolutely do know, which is why I'm objecting to it.
Jasmine, but that's your perception. You think that this is how you... my perception...
Very specific, if you would. You were a psychotherapist.
Yes, I'm a psychotherapist.
But you deal with women who are forced into wearing the niqab.
Another thing I would mention too, regarding communication, in the 9 years of counselling with Sakina Muslim counselling that I do, all of my clients, majority of them are all phone, we do phone counselling. And a lot of good work is done. I don't see their face, they don't see my face. So it's not really about looking at someone and really connecting with that person, because we don't connect with the outer, we connect with the inner.
So you think the loneliness that you talked about seeing when you comes from where?
And not a single person, not a single woman has said to me, my husband has forced me to wear a niqab. What the issues they do have is regards to niqab, I am fearful to go out, I'm at home, I'm lonely, I'm depressed, I don't even want to go out because I feel like I'm not accepted. And the other thing I really want to express is that where is the humanity? You know, at the end of the day, you know, as a woman, as a person, as a human being, where's my right to be who I am? This is my identity.
You have that right. You have that right, and you exercise it, and so are all of the other ladies in this room. But the question is whether or not, and I would ask this of I think, of everyone in the room who's covered, do you think that by covering your face from everyone else in society, you are exacerbating difference or making it less bad?
Mariam,
would any of you at least recognise that you are exacerbating a difference?
Is this divisive?
Well, first and foremost, I think we need to look at human rights, okay? In 1998, there was the Human Rights Convention, okay? Under Article 9, it specifically says we all have the freedom of expression, we have the freedom of belief, we have the freedom of so many things that, you know, like in this country, I thought
Mariam, on Douglas Murray's point, on Douglas Murray's point, that this is, you know, do you understand that many people feel this is divisive? It is a curtain between you and the rest of society.
Well, to be quite frank, I think people are free to feel how they want. It doesn't. I don't care how you feel. It's really no. Wait. Really and truly, it's about my human rights. My human right, I am allowed to cover. You don't have to
just
agree.
Very briefly on the point that many people in the survey said that they feel unease, they feel uncomfortable, they feel anxious.
Well, to be quite frank, I feel like that towards emos, but that's all right.
Can I just point out that? Can I just point out there is something fundamentally ludicrous about somebody dressed as you are talking the language of modern human rights.
Absolutely.
Well, to be
fundamentally ludicrous.
That's in your mind. That's in your mind, Dadis.
Kola Hassan.
This lady is constantly talking about rights. As a Muslim, you should know that responsibility is there as well. You have a responsibility to society around you.
Exactly.
Muslims are hated.
I'm a community.
Yeah, that's enough. Let's take off the kid gloves. On a primal level, the reason most people will disagree with the wearing of the niqab is because it is seen as a sign of patriarchal oppression from a foreign ideology that we do not subscribe to. We can look to countries governed by Islamic rules, where women have no choice but are forced to wear the niqab. All people with eyes can see their plight. They are oppressed, unhappy, and barred from getting an education. But then, in places where women have a choice, not wear it, they still wear it. We do not understand the rationality behind such decisions. Like, why live in the West, away from an Islamic government, but live like you're under a theocracy in the Middle East? Humans are tribal, so when the English in England see strangers come to their land, and instead of assimilating into the host culture, choose to live set apart from the tribe, it only stands to accentuate the differences and also the reality that you are not the same as us. Now let's hear from Douglas Murray.
How is it to ask, you all here, how is it that you say it's an absolutely fundamental, you have to wear it, it's a right, it's a necessity upon you, but yet you say you go through an airport and it doesn't matter if you lift it? Is it so negotiable? In France, many of the women who said we cannot go out if we don't wear it have taken it off.
Can I just say,
Shalina.
You know, there is a place where we have the right to exercise our right. And if this was a school or a playground, you know, as far as I'm concerned, the bullies are winning here. There is a majority of people who have the power and resources to put out there an image about the niqab. I teach in schools, and I said to a young bunch of children, I said to them, if somebody came into your school, a boy, and he had nail varnish on, and he had high heels on, you know, and you seen him getting bullied, would you defend his right to be the way he was? Or would you ask him to change the way that he's dressed? Now, this is what I'm saying is, I said that I respected the fact that in context, you said in a courtroom, in the classroom, or in public settings where there are people who have got mixed opinions, that we should have policies and procedures that control these things. But being in Britain, I'm proud to be British.
Just very briefly, can I ask you, Sahar, many of the women who came forward to talk to us today are very young. And actually, one of the questions that I think a lot of people ask is, you know, we've looked at Afghanistan and we've heard stories of women who have burnt the face veil and are terrified of the prospect of having to wear it again.
Yeah.
And they just don't understand how young women in Britain want to wear it here. Very briefly, if you can.
Well, I started wearing the niqab at a young age, and the reason is after a research. It's a long spiritual journey. I found out that when I wear the niqab, I'll be closer to God. It's an act of worship, it's an act of modesty, and it's liberating and dignifying. And since then, I've never changed my mind. And although my parents, my mum, my sister, don't wear it. It's me. It's my personal choice.
But yes, and in a free society, the opinions of other people also have to matter. It's not just about you exercising your choice. The way other people feel about that should be of some concern to you.
But you know, these feelings are coming from negative prejudices.
We have
coming from
You don't want men's
politicians.
opinions?
No.
You don't want men's opinions?
I'm sorry, we are going to have to end it there. I'm really sorry.
As the only man, I'm sorry you don't want to hear men's opinions.
Thank you very much for joining us.
In a society that values both personal freedom and social cohesion, the debate over the niqab stirs some of the deepest questions we face. Can a balance between individual expression and shared identity truly exist, or must one give way to the other? Does full integration into a community require that we adapt our outward expressions, or should our values embrace even those customs that appear to challenge unity? And perhaps most importantly, is a visible face necessary for genuine connection, or can deeper understanding bridge these differences? Join us next time as we continue to unravel these questions. May God bless Britain, because our mighty empire has been brought to its knees since the war, and the future is not looking very promising. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe so that you don't miss us next week. But in the meantime, here's another video.